Success is a universal desire. People want to be great. They want to be seen, celebrated, respected. But what many forget is that success never comes freely. It comes at a cost. And that cost is called sacrifice. You will never possess what you're not willing to part with. Every dream you carry in your heart demands an exchange. You cannot hold on to everything and expect to rise. Success demands that you let go of the things that weigh you down. It might be sleep. It might be comfort. It might be old friendships that no longer feed your future. You cannot keep your comfort and claim your calling at the same time. Life has laws. Purpose has principles. If you ignore the law of sacrifice, you disqualify yourself from the rewards of success. Sacrifice is not the loss of value, it is the exchange of the lesser for the greater. The problem is we often don't trust what we cannot yet see. So we cling to what is visible and comfortable, even if it is destroying our potential. That's why some people never step out. They fear the uncertainty of obedience. But let me tell you, obedience always demands sacrifice. Abraham had to leave his country. Joseph had to endure a pit and a prison. Moses had to walk away from Pharaoh's palace. Jesus had to lay down his life. Every story of greatness is a story of sacrifice. You see, success is not a product of chance. It is the harvest of choices. The person who is willing to suffer the loss of temporary things becomes qualified to handle eternal rewards. Many want the crown, but they reject the cross. They want influence, but avoid discipline. They desire results, but refuse the process. You cannot separate the pain from the purpose. They are inseparable. Your pain is often the very signal that you are on the road to your next level. Nothing grows without dying first. Look at nature. The seed must go into the ground and die before it can bear fruit. That seed doesn't die because it's worthless. It dies because something greater is inside of it. And until the outer shell breaks, the inner life cannot emerge. Many people are walking around full of potential, but that potential is trapped because they refuse to die to self, die to pride, die to excuses. Potential alone means nothing without the process of sacrifice. We must understand that success is spiritual before it is material. The true battle is internal. Can you deny your cravings? Can you say no to the easy path? Can you stay up when others sleep? Can you walk away from applause to pursue assignment? Sacrifice is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes no one sees it but heaven. But make no mistake, what is done in secret always shows up in public. Sacrifice is the investment that guarantees return, just not always on your schedule. Too many are asking for increase without releasing anything. That's not how the kingdom works. The law of exchange governs growth. What you are willing to give up determines what you're qualified to receive. The weight of glory cannot be placed on people who are addicted to convenience. If you can't sacrifice attention now, you can't handle influence later. If you can't sacrifice your ego now, you're not ready for leadership. If you can't sacrifice your time now, you're not prepared for purpose. There is no elevation without separation. You cannot carry old habits into new seasons. Sacrifice may hurt, but it heals your future. Sacrifice may wound your pride, but it builds your character. Sacrifice may empty your hands, but it fills your soul. Some things you will lose, but what you gain will be far greater. The greatest people on earth are not the ones with the most talent, but the ones who have mastered the art of giving up what they love for what they are called to do. When you see a man or a woman who has made it, don't ask them how they did it. Ask them what they gave up. Because behind every spotlight is a struggle. Behind every breakthrough is a burial. Behind every success is a sacrifice. You will never possess what you're not willing to part with. Every dream that becomes reality was birthed through labor. No purpose is fulfilled without a price being paid. Nothing significant is ever born without pain, and no destiny is ever fulfilled without pressure. Just like a child is conceived in silence, but delivered through travail, so too is success, quietly conceived in faith, but delivered through sacrifice. It is not enough to have potential. You must be willing to go through the process that gives birth to that potential. We often marvel at people who seem to rise from obscurity and enter greatness, but what we don't see is the hidden season of sacrifice that preceded their success. You cannot skip that process. You cannot fake labor. You can't pretend to push and still expect something to be born. Labor is real. Sacrifice is real. Until you pay the price in private, you are not ready to carry influence in public. Many people abort their own dreams, not because they lacked vision, but because they refused labor. They refused to pay the price. They got tired. They wanted comfort more than completion. But the truth remains, purpose is painful. Calling is costly. Every level requires another layer of sacrifice. You don't graduate into your next season without leaving something behind in your current one. You must trade time, convenience, and even relationships to incubate the future you say you want. You cannot carry success until you've stretched your soul to hold it. And stretching hurts. Just like a mother's body expands to accommodate life, your spirit must expand through discipline, self-denial, and relentless focus. That's why success doesn't just require gifts. It demands growth. You may be talented, but can you be trusted? You may be passionate, but can you be patient? These are the questions answered only in the womb of sacrifice. And make no mistake, there is a due season. But due season is only for those who didn't abort the process. It's only for those who endured the night of weeping and kept preparing for the morning of joy. Just because something is delayed doesn't mean it is denied. You don't question the baby because the labor hurts. You don't give up on delivery because the contractions are strong. No, if anything, the pain is proof that you're close. The pressure is a sign that your promise is near. We live in a generation that wants quick success without paying the cost. But kingdom success doesn't work like that. Heaven only releases what earth is prepared to carry. You must become the kind of person who can handle what you're asking for. That's why God doesn't give you a dream when you first see it. He gives it after you've labored for it. You grow into it. You become it. Sacrifice makes you compatible with your calling. Too many want the outcome without the outcry. But success, real success, is the result of years of hidden obedience. Countless moments of giving up what you could do for what you must do, and pushing through when everything in you wants to stop. And sometimes you push alone. Sometimes no one is in the room with you. But just like a woman giving birth, your reward is not the crowd. It's the child. The success is worth the strain. Let this be known. If you are not willing to labor, you are not ready to lead. If you are not willing to pay the price, you are not prepared to walk in the promise. Stop asking for success until you've found your sacrifice. Stop praying for results you haven't prepared for. Dreams don't work unless you do, and visions don't manifest without labor. Sacrifice is not the enemy of your success. It is the evidence of your commitment to it. It is the sacred space where the invisible becomes visible, the place where heaven and earth meet to birth destiny. Every great move of God in history began with someone who was willing to pay a painful price. Not just in public, but behind closed doors. Not for applause, but for assignment. Not for fame, but for fulfillment. Comfort zones are graves for greatness. If you won't disrupt your convenience, you will never disturb your destiny. Nothing extraordinary has ever been accomplished in the safety of what is familiar. The life you are called to live is not found where it is easy. It is found where it is necessary to grow, stretch, and even suffer. Greatness demands movement, it demands risk, and it demands that you walk away from the shallow waters of security into the deep ocean of trust. Many people want change, but few are willing to be changed. They desire elevation, but refuse disruption. But here's a truth that cannot be avoided. Success is always on the other side of comfort. The moment you decide to pursue purpose, something must become uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you're alive, that you're moving, that you're being awakened from the sedative of routine. Comfort is deceptive. It tells you things are fine when they're really just familiar. You become used to a level of thinking, a circle of friends, a way of doing things. And though you know deep down that more is possible, comfort whispers, stay here, it's safe. But purpose is never safe. It is not reckless, but it is risky. And you cannot rise into what you are not willing to reach for. If your hands are too busy holding what is easy, they will never grasp what is eternal. Every great person you admire, whether in business, ministry, art, or leadership, at some point had to leave what was comfortable. They had to break up with predictability. They had to challenge their limitations. They had to be willing to look foolish, to be misunderstood, to walk alone for a season. That's the cost of success. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is the courage to leave what is good enough in order to chase what is truly great. You cannot live a life of impact while remaining in the safe zones of yesterday. What used to work in one season may not work in the next. That's why growth requires change, and change always costs comfort. You cannot pray for increase and expect no interruption. You cannot pray for more and expect to stay the same. The expansion of your calling will often begin with the eviction of your convenience. True transformation begins when you stop asking, "Is this comfortable for me?" and start asking, "Is this correct for my calling?" That's when the shift happens. That's when your life starts to align with something higher. When your appetite changes. When your mindset matures. When you would rather be stretched than satisfied. That's when God can trust you with more. It's not that comfort is evil. It's that it can become a cage. And cages are not for people of purpose. They are not for dreamers, builders, or visionaries. If you want to fly, you must step out. If you want to grow, you must break through. Even the eagle stirs the nest to push the young out, not to punish them, but to teach them they were born for the sky. Likewise, your discomfort might not be the enemy. It might be a divine sign that your wings are ready. Some of the most defining moments of your life will come after a decision to leave what you've always known. And yes, it will feel like dying at times. Dying to routine. Dying to public opinion. Dying to the need to always be understood. But in that place of death, new life is born. That's how purpose works. The pain is not punishment, it is preparation. If you are too committed to comfort, you will never complete your assignment. You will settle for applause instead of authority, pleasure instead of progress, and ease instead of effectiveness. But the world does not need more comfortable people. It needs committed ones. Those who are willing to step into the unknown, take the risk, and obey the voice of vision even when everything in them wants to stay where it's safe. The seed must die before it lives. Likewise, to grow in success, some part of you must be buried: pride, fear, laziness, or distraction. This is a principle built into the very structure of creation. It's not a punishment, it's a pattern. Everything God creates grows through death first. The seed does not become less. When it is buried, it becomes more. But it cannot become more unless it first surrenders its outer shell. So it is with you. You cannot walk in your future while clinging to what no longer serves you in your present. Success is not about gaining first. It's about losing what must be let go. The path to greatness is not up, it is down. Down into humility, down into discipline, down into hidden places where no one sees you, no one praises you, and no one understands what you're doing. But in that dark place, in that silent soil, something sacred is taking root. In that place of surrender, the process of transformation begins. Too many people want resurrection without crucifixion. They want the fruits of success, but reject the death that makes it possible. But here's the truth. There is no breakthrough without burial. You have to die to something if you want to come alive to something else. You must die to procrastination if you want to live in productivity. You must die to self-centeredness if you want to lead others effectively. You must die to old mindsets if you want to receive new vision. This is not just about external success. It's about internal alignment. Growth doesn't start with what's in your hands. It starts with what's in your heart. If your heart is still full of pride, bitterness, insecurity, and fear, success will destroy you instead of build you. That's why the dying is necessary. It purifies your motive. It refines your vision. It brings you into alignment with your assignment. God will not raise what has not first been crucified. You cannot hold on to the old you and expect to walk into a new season. Every time you elevate, something in you must be left behind. The seed never rises in the same form it was buried. It breaks, it shifts, it transforms. So must you. If you are still the same person, still thinking the same way, still living on the same level, then you haven't died yet. And if you haven't died, you haven't grown. The most powerful people you'll ever meet are not those who know the most, but those who have lost the most. They've lost ego. They've lost the need to be right. They've lost the obsession with popularity. They've lost the distractions that once kept them tied to small thinking. And in that loss, they found something greater. They found conviction. They found calling. So many people pray for growth, but run from the grave. But remember this, the grave is not your end. It is your beginning. It is the place where your limits go to die and your potential begins to breathe. And yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's dark. But it's only for a season. No seed stays buried forever. No dream that is surrendered in faith stays dead. It may take time. It may not look like what you expected, but it will rise. Don't be afraid to bury what no longer belongs. Don't be afraid to lay down what's been holding you back. If you want to walk in new authority, new territory, New impact, then let the old die. Let the version of you that served your last season be buried, not because it was bad, but because it is no longer enough. Burial is not the end of the seed. It is the beginning of the tree. And the fruit that comes later always outweighs the cost of what was laid down. There is something in you the world needs, but it will only emerge through death to self. Only then can true life begin. Nothing grows without dying first. Glory follows pain. If you want to wear the crown, you must carry the cross that comes with your calling. This is not just a statement of faith. It is a law of life. Every elevation demands a cost, and that cost is the cross. The cross is the place where something in you is stripped, pierced, and laid bare. It is the death of entitlement, the end of excuses, the confrontation of your weaknesses. You cannot ascend if you refuse to endure that place. The crown is beautiful, but the cross is bloody. And if you're not willing to bleed, you're not ready to reign. So many want the resurrection moment, the moment of breakthrough, recognition, success, and influence. But they despise the crucifixion season. They pray for the reward but run from the requirement. But here's the truth: your destiny will crucify your comfort. It will nail your pride to the wall. It will expose your doubts, challenge your fears, and bring your flesh into submission. That's how you know your calling is real. It doesn't just excite you. It kills parts of you that cannot survive your next season. The cross is not optional for those who carry purpose. It is part of the process. And it doesn't just come once. It shows up at every new level. Every time you grow, a new crucifixion must take place. Your patience gets tested. Your character gets pressed. Your motives are put under fire. But if you endure the pain, you'll come out with power. If you withstand the suffering, you'll step into the glory. The cross was not the end of the story. It was the door to resurrection. But you can't enter that door unless you pass through death. And don't misunderstand, this isn't about public suffering. Some of your greatest crucifixions will be silent, private. You'll be dying while smiling, bleeding while leading. You'll be serving others while your own soul is crying out. But that's the weight of the cross. It teaches you to lead from a deeper place. It teaches you how to love through pain, how to stay faithful through fire, and how to trust God when nothing makes sense. Every crown is forged in crucifixion. You don't qualify for authority without submission. You don't earn influence without integrity. You don't walk in victory without first walking through a valley. This is why success is not just about strategy. It's about surrender. You must be willing to die to your own plan if you want to live in God's purpose. Resurrection power is not given to the proud. It is entrusted to those who've been broken and rebuilt by the process. Look at every great leader in history. They all had their cross. Moments where they could have quit. Moments where they could have turned back. Moments where they were betrayed, overlooked, misunderstood, or attacked. But they didn't run. They didn't retaliate. They endured the cross and embraced the pain, knowing that glory was waiting on the other side. That's the price of true greatness. There's no shortcut to resurrection. You cannot bypass the cross to get to the crown. You must pass through pain to reach purpose. And yes, crucifixion hurts. It will feel like the end. It will feel like everything is falling apart. But it's not. It's falling into place. Because resurrection is not possible until something has died. And when it dies and you let it go, then and only then can something greater rise in its place. Don't run from your cross. Don't despise your process. Don't pray away the pain if it's producing something eternal in you. That discomfort, that struggle, that silence, it's forming you, molding you, preparing you for what's next. There is no resurrection without crucifixion, because only what dies can live again in a greater form. You want the crown, then take up your cross, carry it with purpose, endure it with faith, because the grave is not your final chapter. Resurrection is coming. Sacrifice proves capacity. The more you release, the more heaven can entrust to you. This is not just a principle, it is a law of increase. You don't grow by holding on, you grow by letting go. The measure of what you're willing to surrender determines the level of what you're prepared to carry. It's not about what's in your hands, it's about what's in your heart. If your heart is not emptied of self, it cannot be filled with purpose. God does not bless based on desire alone, He blesses based on discipline. The moment you prove that something no longer owns you, you create space for something greater. Sacrifice is the divine test of readiness. It asks the question, can I trust you with more? Can I trust you with influence that won't corrupt you? Can I give you visibility that won't steal your authenticity? Can I give you success that won't destroy your soul? Many people ask for promotion while still clinging to the things that limit them. They want expansion without release. They pray for the new while protecting the old. But you cannot receive what's next until you release what was. Heaven waits for empty vessels. Full hearts, full egos, full calendars. These are the signs of people too full of themselves to be filled with destiny. What you walk away from reveals what you're ready to walk into. Sacrifice reveals your seriousness. When you're truly ready, you don't just talk, you let go. You release control, comfort, and sometimes even things that are good, simply because they are not great. Abraham was tested not with Ishmael, but with Isaac. God asked him for the promise itself. Why? Because what you're willing to lay down tells heaven how much you truly trust. Sacrifice isn't just loss, it's language, it speaks of faith. It declares, I trust what's ahead more than I need to cling to what's behind. You show heaven you're ready by the things you release. The higher the calling, the deeper the cutting. Every level of purpose comes with a greater level of pruning. Not because God is trying to hurt you, but because He is trying to increase your capacity. You cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. You must be renewed. You must be emptied. You must be positioned in such a way that heaven knows this one is ready. There are blessings that are weighty, too heavy for the undisciplined to carry. And God in His wisdom withholds them, not as punishment, but as protection. You must prove you can carry what you're asking for. And the proof is in what you lay down. Sacrifice sharpens your character. It builds your endurance. It stretches your faith. Without it, you'll collapse under the weight of what you beg to hold. The people who carry the most are the ones who've lost the most. But in losing, they made room. In surrendering, they created space. Don't envy someone's platform if you haven't seen their altar. Don't desire their crown if you don't know what they've crucified. Every promotion is preceded by separation. You must leave behind before you lay hold. There is a price for more. Not in money, but in maturity. It costs you sleep. It costs you excuses. It costs you comfort. And sometimes it costs relationships that can't walk with you where you're going. But remember, God never subtracts without the intention to multiply. If He asks you to give it up, it's because He plans to give you something greater. But first, He must see if your heart can handle it. So ask yourself, what am I still clinging to that is keeping me from what I've been called to? What have I refused to release that's keeping heaven's hand tied? It's not that you're not called, it's that you're not clear. Clarity comes through sacrifice. Vision expands as pride dies. Capacity increases as convenience is surrendered. So hear me now, success is not a mystery, and it is never accidental. It is the result of a deliberate decision to die to the lesser in pursuit of the greater. It is the fruit of sacrifice, the evidence of surrender, the proof that you are no longer ruled by comfort, but governed by conviction. You cannot rise unless you're first willing to be buried. You cannot reign unless you're first willing to be broken. Every crown you desire is waiting on the other side of a cross you must be willing to carry. Success is not something you chase, it is something you become. And you become it through the fire of sacrifice, through the death of pride, through the letting go of what is easy, so you can step into what is eternal. You must trade your excuses for excellence, your comfort for calling, your fear for faith, your convenience for conviction. That is the cost. That is the price. That is the pathway. So don't just ask, what do I want to achieve? Ask instead, what am I willing to give up? Because what you're willing to part with determines what heaven is prepared to release. You will never possess what you're not willing to sacrifice for. The womb of your future is watered by what you bury in obedience today. And remember, it is not the giving that makes you great. It is the reason behind it. Sacrifice is not an act of loss. It is a declaration of vision. It says, I see something greater than what I'm holding. I believe in something beyond what I can see. That's the kind of person heaven uses. That's the kind of life God breathes on. That's the soil where success grows. So don't fear the pain. Don't resist the process. Embrace the sacrifice. Because on the other side of surrender is strength. On the other side of death is destiny. And on the other side of your cross is your crown.